Welcome to my channel, The World of Science Fiction. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. The wind howled across the icy peaks of Argos, carrying with it a bitter cold that cut to the bone. Lyra huddled against the rocky outcropping, her blue skin standing out starkly against the white snow. She pulled her thin cloak tighter around her shoulders, but it did little to ward off the chill. Tears stung her eyes as she watched the last of the Argon ships disappear into the stormy sky. They had left her behind, deemed too weak to make the journey to their new home. At just 16 cycles old, she was now completely alone on this harsh, unforgiving world. As night fell and the temperature plummeted further, Lyra knew she had to find shelter or freeze to death. Her legs trembled with cold and fatigue as she stumbled through the deepening snow. The wind whipped her long white hair across her face, obscuring her vision. Just when she thought she could go no further, Lyra spotted a dark opening in the mountainside ahead. A cave. With the last of her strength, she dragged herself inside and collapsed onto the rocky floor. As unconsciousness took her, Lyra's last thought was that at least she would die with a roof over her head. Hours later, Lyra was jolted awake by a deafening roar. The ground shook violently beneath her as a blinding light filled the cave. Disoriented and terrified, she scrambled deeper into the shadows. The light faded, replaced by billowing smoke and the acrid smell of burning fuel. Lyra could hear voices now, unfamiliar voices speaking a language she didn't understand. Curiosity overcame her fear, and she crept forward to peer out of the cave. What she saw made her gasp. A massive metal ship lay broken and smoking on the mountainside, pieces of it scattered across the snow. And emerging from the wreckage were creatures unlike any Lyra had ever seen. They walked on two legs like Argons, but their skin came in shades of brown and pink rather than blue. Their ears were oddly rounded and their eyes a variety of colors. Humans. Lyra had heard stories of them, but never dreamed she would see one in person. Now here was an entire group of them, right outside her cave. She watched in fascination as they stumbled around in the snow, clearly disoriented. One of them, a tall male with close-cropped dark hair, seemed to be in charge. He barked orders at the others, pointing and gesturing. Under his direction, they began pulling supplies and equipment from the crashed ship. Lyra knew she should stay hidden. These aliens could be dangerous, but as she observed them struggling in the harsh conditions, her heart went out to them. They were clearly unprepared for Argo's brutal climate. Without help, they would likely freeze to death before morning. Taking a deep breath, Lyra stepped out of the cave and into view. Immediately, all activity ceased as the humans turned to stare at her. She held up her hands in what she hoped was a non-threatening gesture. Hello, she said hesitantly in their language. Do you need help? The dark-haired leader strode towards her, his hand resting on the weapon at his hip. His piercing gray eyes studied her intently. Who are you? He demanded. What are you doing here? Lyra swallowed nervously. My name is Lyra. I'm an Argon. This is my home planet. Or it was. My people left me behind when they evacuated. Her voice cracked slightly on the last words. The man's stern expression softened slightly. I'm Captain Alex Raymond of the Earth ship Horizon. We've crash-landed here after being attacked by pirates. Can you tell us where we are? Lyra nodded. This is Argos. It's an ice planet in the Andromeda galaxy. The environment here is very dangerous, especially at night. You need to find shelter quickly. Captain Raymond glanced back at his battered ship and the shivering crew. Our ship is too damaged to provide adequate shelter. Do you know of anywhere nearby we could take refuge? The cave I was in is fairly large, Lyra offered. It should fit all of you. I can show you how to insulate it against the cold. Raymond studied her for a long moment, clearly weighing whether to trust her. Finally, he nodded. All right, show us this cave of yours. But I'm warning you. Any sign of treachery, and you'll regret it. Lyra led the humans to her cave, trying not to let her fear show. She knew she was taking a risk in helping them, but she couldn't bring herself to abandon them to freeze. As they entered the dark cavern, Lyra showed them how to use the bioluminescent fungi on the walls to provide light. "We need to block the entrance to keep out the wind," she explained. "There are large leaves from the glacier plants that work well as insulation. I can show you where to find them." Over the next few hours, Lyra worked alongside the humans to make the cave habitable. She was impressed by their resourcefulness and teamwork. By the time night fell, they had created a snug shelter with separate sleeping areas and a central gathering space. As they huddled around the heating units salvaged from the ship, Captain Raymond turned to Lyra. "Thank you for your help. We would likely be dead without it. Now, can you tell us more about this planet and why your people abandoned you here?" Lyra's shoulders slumped. "Argos has been our home for thousands of years, but recently, the climate has been changing rapidly. Storms are getting worse, temperatures dropping to lethal levels. Our scientists predicted the planet would become completely uninhabitable within a few years, so the decision was made to evacuate to a new world. But they left you behind," Raymond said softly. "Why?" Lyra blinked back tears. "I'm different, weaker than the others. A genetic anomaly. They didn't think I would survive the journey or be able to contribute to establishing a new colony, so they left me here to die." A murmur of sympathy ran through the gathered humans. A young woman with fiery red hair reached out and squeezed Lyra's hand. "That's horrible. I'm so sorry." Captain Raymond's jaw tightened. "Well, you're welcome to stay with us. We could use your knowledge of this planet." He glanced around at his crew. "Everyone get some rest. We'll assess our situation in the morning and figure out our next move." As the humans settled in for the night, Lyra curled up in a corner, her mind whirling. In the span of a day, her entire world had changed. She had gone from alone and hopeless to surrounded by strange aliens who seemed to accept her. For the first time since being abandoned, Lyra felt a glimmer of hope. The next few days fell into a routine as the humans worked to salvage what they could from their ship and establish a more permanent camp. Lyra proved invaluable, showing them which local plants were edible and how to avoid the more dangerous predators. She found herself growing close to several of the crew members, particularly Dr. Ilara Chen, the ship's physician. The kind-hearted doctor took Lyra under her wing, teaching her about human culture and customs. "So you've really never left this planet?" Ilara asked one day as they foraged for edible fungi. Lyra shook her head. "No, I've seen images of other worlds, but I've never been off Argos. What's Earth like?" Ilara's eyes took on a faraway look. "It's beautiful. There are vast oceans and lush forests, soaring mountains and sprawling cities. The diversity of life is incredible." She sighed. "I hope we see it again someday." "Do you think you'll be able to repair your ship?" Lyra asked. Ilara's expression turned grim. "Honestly, I'm not sure. The damage is extensive. We're running low on supplies and spare parts. Unless we can find a way to contact Earth for rescue." She trailed off. Lyra felt a pang of worry for her new friends. She had grown fond of the humans and didn't want to see them suffer the same fate as she had faced. There had to be a way to help them. That evening, as they gathered around the communal meal, Captain Raymond made an announcement. "I finished assessing the damage to our communications array. With the parts we have, there's no way to repair it enough to send a distress signal strong enough to reach Earth." A ripple of dismay ran through the group. Lyra's heart ached at the looks of despair on their faces. However, Raymond continued, "If we could boost the signal somehow, we might be able to reach the nearest outpost. They could send help." "But how?" asked Cooper, the ship's engineer. "We don't have any equipment capable of that kind of signal boost." Lyra cleared her throat nervously. All eyes turned to her. I might know of something that could help. There's an old Argon communications relay station in the mountains to the north. If it's still operational, it might be powerful enough to boost your signal." Raymond leaned forward intently. How far is this relay station? About a 3-day journey on foot, Lyra replied. But the terrain is treacherous and the weather unpredictable. It would be dangerous. The captain was quiet for a long moment, considering. Finally, he nodded decisively. It's our best option. We'll send a small team to investigate this relay station. Lyra, we'll need you to guide us. I'll go, Cooper volunteered immediately. Me too, added Ilara. We may need medical support. All right, said Raymond. The 4 of us will set out tomorrow at first light. The rest of you continue working on repairs here at base camp. If we're not back in 10 days, assume the worst and enact emergency protocols. As the others dispersed to prepare for the expedition, Lyra felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. She had never ventured this far from her home before, but she was determined to do whatever she could to help the humans who had shown her such kindness. The next morning dawned clear and cold as the small group set out. Lyra led the way, her keen eyes picking out the safest path through the jagged terrain. They'd made good progress the first day, covering nearly a third of the distance to the relay station. As they set up camp that night, huddled around a small heat generator, Cooper turned to Lyra curiously. So what's the deal with your people anyway? Why'd they decide to up and abandon their home planet? Lyra sighed, poking at the meager rations warming over the heater. It's complicated. Argos wasn't always like this. When I was young, there were vast forests and grasslands. Millions of Argons lived in great cities across the planet. But then the climate began to change. At first it was subtle, slightly colder winters, more severe storms, but it accelerated rapidly. Within a few years, most of the planet was covered in ice and snow. Food became scarce as crops failed. The elders said it was a natural cycle, that things would return to normal. But they didn't. She paused, lost in painful memories. Ilara reached out and squeezed her hand encouragingly. As conditions worsened, our society began to fracture. Lyra continued. There were riots, wars over dwindling resources. Finally, the decision was made to evacuate. But there weren't enough ships for everyone. Only the strongest and most genetically pure were chosen. That's awful, Ilara said softly, to abandon your own people like that. Lyra shrugged. They saw it as ensuring the survival of our species. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Still doesn't make it right, Cooper grumbled. Perhaps not, said Captain Raymond. But we can't judge an entire civilization based on limited information. Right now, we need to focus on our own survival. He fixed Lyra with an intent gaze. Are you certain you can find this relay station? Lyra nodded firmly. Yes. I studied the old maps extensively. As long as the landmarks haven't changed too much, I can get us there. Good. Get some rest, everyone. We've got a long day ahead of us tomorrow. As Lyra drifted off to sleep that night, she found herself feeling truly optimistic for the first time in years. These humans had given her a renewed sense of purpose. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she was determined to help them succeed. The next 2 days of travel proved grueling. They battled fierce winds and treacherous ice as they climbed higher into the mountains. Lyra was impressed by the humans' resilience. Despite the harsh conditions, they pushed on without complaint. On the afternoon of the 3rd day, as they crested a high ridge, Lyra let out an excited cry. There, do you see it? In the valley below, barely visible through the swirling snow, stood a massive dish-shaped structure. The relay station. Well, I'll be damned, Cooper whistled. The kid actually found it. They picked their way carefully down the steep slope, finally reaching the base of the station as darkness fell. Up close, the structure was even more impressive, easily 100 meters tall, with a web of antennae sprouting from its surface. Looks like it's still got power, Raymond noted, pointing to a faint blue glow emanating from within. Let's hope the systems are still operational. Cooper, see what you can do about getting us inside. The rest of us will set up camp. It took Cooper nearly an hour to bypass the old Argon security protocols, But finally the massive doors slid open with a groan of protesting metal. As they entered the cavernous main chamber, banks of alien computers flickered to life, bathing them in an eerie blue glow. Fascinating, Ilara breathed, running her hand over a console covered in strange symbols. The technology here is incredible. Can you make sense of any of it? Raymond asked Lyra. She bit her lip uncertainly. Some. I recognize parts of the interface from our historical archives, but a lot of this is beyond my knowledge. Cooper was already elbow-deep in an open access panel. The core systems seemed to be intact. With a little work, I think I can interface our comm equipment with the main array. It'll take some time, though. Raymond nodded. Do what you can. Lyra, assist Cooper however you're able. Ilara and I will secure the perimeter and set up a temporary base camp. We'll work in shifts to get this done as quickly as possible. Over the next several days, they worked tirelessly to bring the ancient relay station back online. Cooper proved to be a miracle worker, somehow managing to integrate their Earth technology with the alien systems. Lyra's knowledge of the Argon language proved crucial in deciphering the station's programming. Finally, on the 5th day, Cooper let out a whoop of triumph. I think we've got it. Signals ready to transmit. We just need to input the coordinates for the nearest outpost. Raymond quickly entered the necessary data. With a low hum, the massive dish above them began to move, aligning itself. Transmitting now, Cooper announced. For several tense minutes they waited. Then a light on the console began to blink. We're receiving a response, Cooper exclaimed. Raymond leaned in, listening intently to the crackling message. When he straightened up, he was grinning broadly. They've acknowledged our distress call. A rescue ship is being dispatched. They should reach us within 2 weeks. A cheer went up from the group. They had done it. Soon they would be going home. As the humans celebrated, Lyra felt a conflicting mix of emotions. She was thrilled that her new friends would be saved. But what would become of her? Would they take her with them, or would she be left behind yet again? Her worries must have shown on her face, because Ilara came over and put an arm around her shoulders. Hey, what's wrong? Aren't you excited? Lyra tried to smile. Of course. I'm so happy for all of you. I don't know what will happen to me now. Ilara's eyes widened in understanding. Oh, Lyra, you don't think we'd leave you behind, do you? You're coming with us, of course. Really? Lyra stammered. You mean it? Absolutely, Captain Raymond said, joining them. You've more than earned a place among our crew. If you want to come with us to Earth, we'd be honored to have you. Overwhelmed, Lyra burst into tears. The humans gathered around her, offering words of comfort and support. For the first time in her life, Lyra felt truly accepted. She had found a new family. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of activity. They salvaged what they could from the relay station, preparing for the long journey ahead. Lyra soaked up every bit of information the humans could give her about Earth and their culture. When the rescue ship finally arrived, Lyra felt a mix of excitement and trepidation as she boarded. This would be her first time leaving the surface of Argos. As the ship lifted off, she pressed her face to a window, watching her homeworld shrink away beneath them. The rescue ship, a sleek vessel called the Artemis, was far larger and more advanced than the crashed Horizon. Lyra wandered the corridors in wide-eyed wonder, marveling at the technology that surrounded her. The ship's crew regarded her with curiosity, many never having seen an Argon before. Captain Raymond acted as a buffer, fielding most of their questions and ensuring Lyra wasn't overwhelmed. She's under my protection, he told the Artemis's captain firmly. I expect her to be treated with the same respect as any member of my crew. Over the next few days, as they began the long journey back to Earth, Lyra found herself spending more and more time with Cooper. The engineer's easygoing nature and quick wit put her at ease, and she enjoyed learning about the ship's systems from him. So this plasma converter, Lyra said, peering at a glowing blue tube, it provides power for the whole ship. Cooper nodded, grinning at her enthusiasm. That's right. Converts hydrogen into usable energy. Way more efficient than the old fusion drives. Lyara's brow furrowed. But where does it get the hydrogen from? Surely you don't carry enough fuel for such a long journey. Ah, that's the beauty of it, Cooper said. He launched into a detailed explanation of how the ship's magnetic scoops collected stray hydrogen atoms from space as they traveled. As he spoke, Lyra found herself studying his face, the warm brown of his eyes, the curl of his lip as he smiled. A flutter of an unfamiliar emotion stirred in her chest. She quickly looked away, cheeks flushing a deeper shade of blue. If Cooper noticed her reaction, he didn't comment on it. But Lyra caught him glancing at her more often after that, a thoughtful expression on his face. Meanwhile, Dr. Chen had taken it upon herself to give Lyra a crash course in human biology and culture. They spent hours each day going over everything from basic anatomy to complex social customs. So humans pair bond for life? Lyra asked, fascinated by the concept of marriage. Ilara chuckled. Well, that's the idea. Though it doesn't always work out that way in practice. Relationships can be complicated. Lyra nodded slowly. I think I'm beginning to understand that, she said softly, thinking of her confusing new feelings for Cooper. As the days passed, Lyra found herself integrating more and more with the human crew. She joined them for meals, swapping stories and jokes. She even tried her hand at some of their games, though the rules of poker continued to elude her. The alarms blared through the Artemis, bathing the corridors in pulsing red light. Lyra's heart raced as she followed Cooper to the engine room, her feet barely touching the ground as they ran. All hands to battle stations. Captain Raymond's voice crackled over the intercom. Multiple hostile ships on intercept course. They burst into the engine room just as the first impact rocked the ship. Lyra stumbled, crashing into a console. Cooper steadied her, his face grim. Pirates, he growled, fingers flying over the controls. Sam ones that attacked us before. Lyra, I need you to watch these readouts. If any of them go into the red, yell. Lyra nodded, trying to focus on the unfamiliar screens as chaos erupted around them. The ship shuddered under another barrage. Sparks showered from an overhead conduit. Shields at 60%. Someone shouted from across the room. Cooper cursed, diving beneath a panel. Rerouting auxiliary power. Lyra, how are those readouts? Still green, she called back, gripping the console as the deck lurched beneath her. Through the viewport, she caught glimpses of sleek black ships darting past, energy weapons flashing. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocked the Artemis. Lyra was thrown to the floor, ears ringing. As she struggled to her feet, she saw flames erupting from a ruptured fuel line. Fire in engineering. Cooper yelled into his comm. He grabbed an extinguisher, tossing another to Lyra. Aim for the base of the flames. Together, they battled the blaze as the ship continued to shake under enemy fire. Sweat beaded on Lyra's blue skin, her lungs burning from the acrid smoke. Just when it seemed they might be overwhelmed, a new voice cut through the chaos. This is Admiral Chen of the Earth Defense Fleet. Stand down and prepare to be boarded, or we will open fire. Lyra sagged with relief as a massive battlecruiser dropped out of warp, dwarfing both the Artemis and the pirate vessels. The pirates quickly turned tail and fled, not willing to challenge Earth's military might. As the adrenaline faded, Lyra found herself trembling. Cooper pulled her into a tight embrace, his heart pounding against her cheek. It's okay, he murmured. We're safe now. You did great. Lyra clung to him, realizing in that moment that her feelings for the human engineer ran deeper than she had admitted to herself. The rest of the journey passed without major incident. As they entered Earth's solar system, excitement built among the crew. Lyra spent hours at the viewports, watching in awe as they passed the giant planets of the outer system. Finally, after weeks of travel, a blue-green orb appeared in the distance. Earth. Lyra's breath caught in her throat as they drew closer. Swirling white clouds drifted over vast oceans. sprawling continents in shades of green and brown, and twinkling across it all, the lights of countless cities. "It's beautiful," Lyra whispered. "Wait till you see it up close," Cooper said, coming to stand beside her. He took her hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. "Welcome to your new home, Lyra." As the Artemis began its descent through the atmosphere, Lyra's mind raced with questions and possibilities. What would this strange new world be like? How would she fit in among so many humans? The ship touched down with a gentle thud. As the airlock cycled open, Lyra took a deep breath, straightened her shoulders, and stepped out to face her new life on Earth. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew she wouldn't face them alone.